I used to like Coca-Cola. I know, it's pretty simple, but I used to like it. And I had some Coke in the fridge, and I told him not to drink it. I mean, he was, what, 5? Told him not to drink it. Do not drink that. Well, he decided that he wanted to drink that, but he didn't want me to catch him for a while. And so he took this can of Coke, and he poked a little hole in the bottom, drained it out, and then managed to fill it up with salt water. Put a little piece of tape over it, so when I took the smell, I got the salt water. So, that was at age, I think, 5 or 6. And he had quite a sense of humor, and I don't know where he gets that. I can imagine. Anyway, so many memories I have of Jeff, and so much of his life that I actually missed, because I went to work, too much work, nothing left being with Jeff. But we used to go on bone hunts out in the West Desert, and he still goes out there. He still went out there. He just loved going out in the West Desert hunting for bones, and nothing in particular. A rabbit bone would do. Any kind of carcass, as long as it was dead and the skin was off it, it was a bone. We found it a treasure. And we brought him back, much to the chagrin of his mother, and we had a collection of bones, and then he started hauling his friends out there, I guess, and then he'd go out there by himself. There were times when he just wanted to be out there in the desert alone, and went out there with let's see, who did we go out there with? Stephanie, and who was with us it was Dave. There you are, Dave. Anyway, we went out to what I used to call punk rock. It was Lone Rock, but we named it punk rock. Good times out there. I got one picture, I think, up here. I'm going to let people just come and say a few words about him. Anybody that has a good humorous story, or maybe even, I don't care if it's off color, whatever. Jeff is Jeff, We all love Jeff no matter what. But before I set the microphone down, there are a pile of pictures up here that everybody's welcome to come and look at. We didn't lay them out because of the wind, but it seems like it's died down a little bit, so we might scatter them out a little bit. And if you haven't, the sign-in over here, I was going to bring he's got a Bart Simpson journal that I sent to him, and he never wrote in it. So I was going to lay it out here for the sign-in, everybody to write a note, but I forgot it, so it's not here. But these picture frames here, you can they're the guest registry, so you can sign the guest registry here. And we are going to attempt something. I don't know whether Krista told me about this. I don't know whether it's up and running yet or whether it will be. But the Forest Service out in Duchesne had a pigeon thing where you could tie a note to a pigeon, and then you could drive out to a spot, and the pigeon would deliver your message. And I was going to have that all set up here, but I don't think the pigeon thing's running right now. Can you guys say whether or not it's going? Anybody? It's not going right now. So it's not going right now. So that's a future thing. We'll let you send him a message at some point once maybe that's back up and going. And then after everyone else has had a chance to say a few words about Jeff, his mother's going to come up and read a book that I'm not going to be able to listen to, and I don't know how she's going to read it. But by then, we hope the pizza's here. And the closing prayer, who's the closing prayer? Kelly, okay. Kelly's going to give the closing prayer, so there are 2 Kellys. Kelly Mitchell, don't worry about it. We were going to live stream this, but there is virtually no connectivity up here. I'm not getting anything on T-Mobile, and I don't know if anybody else is getting anything, but we're recording it, and we'll hopefully be able to put it out on media for those that weren't able to attend. I know there's dozens and dozens that wanted to be here. They couldn't. So with that, let me go ahead and turn the mic over to anybody that wants to say a word or two.
That's okay, Ken. Why I glands are too close to my eyes also. I'm Dave Goodman. I'm Jeff's grandfather, the one that we trash talk each other with all these Utah fans and shirts here. I can stand it. I'd just like to say one instance I had with Jeff is he called me up when he was fairly young and really getting into the Utah basketball, football. And he called me and he says, Grandpa, I got 2 tickets to the BYU football game. Would you take me? Well, of course, I was thrilled to say yes. And he said, we got good seats. Well, the seat was right in the middle of the rowdy Utah. And we one little blue hat on against all the red. There was a few blue hats on. But anyway, every time Utah'd make a good advancement, there's Jeff. He'd jump out, take his hat, yeah, and he yelled so long and so loud that he got pretty hoarse. And BYU happened to be ahead, right within about 3, 4, 5 minutes into the game. And I said, hey, we're going to beat you. I'm going to get that $1 bet. And he says, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, it just turned out that Utah did make a long pass. And he got down into about the 5-yard line. And the crowd was just really roaring and carrying on. And it was really quite fun to be there, even though I couldn't say much. And then the time went on, Utah made another play, and we held them about the 2-yard line. Now they needed a touchdown to win this game. And I kept saying, Jeff, we still got a chance. We still got just a few minutes or seconds left on this clock. And he was jumping up, waving that red hat. I think he's trying to scare the bulls away, but anyway, he jumped, the Utah called a timeout just before the next play. The crowd quieted down, and Jeff jumped up, he took his hat, he raised it in the air, and he looked down at me, and he said, Grandpa, instead of that $1 bet we got, let's make it 10. I said, Jeff, we're in BYU because we don't bet. Sit down, sit down. Anyway, we had a great time. Utah did win the game. They got a score, and it was great for Jeff. Sad for me, but we got it done. I'm going to miss the phone calls. Excuse me. After every Utah game, no matter who they's playing, or the BYU who they's playing, if Jeff was on the mountain and could get out, I always got a phone call from him. We trash things out, trash talk one another. I'd say, Jeff, you should have been a coach. And he says, well, I can see the faults here and there, and maybe I should have been. And then, anyway, but the thing I'm really going to miss is at the close of our conversation, Jeff or I would say, I love you. He'd say, Grandpa, I love you. And I'd say, I love you too, guy. Take care. And I just want my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren that's here in the way to know that there's plenty of love from me to them. And I love them all. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Anybody else have anything they got to say?
So my name's Cody, and I knew Jeff through Kent, and I am an eyewitness to a lot of the shenanigans that took place, but we won't embarrass Kent. So Kent's a pretty quiet fellow, and he kept Jeff a secret really all through high school. And as I've been standing here, I was like, God, I know I met Jeff before college. I know I did. I swear to God I did. And then I remember going to a party at Kent's house, and Jeff was standing there. I was like, oh, okay, I don't know who he is, but he looks nice. Sorry. My good?
It's cutting everyone's head off.
Oh. I get my good side. So, we all went our separate ways after high school and came back. And I fully remember this time we were at Kent's parents' house, and I see this big guy. I'm like, wow, he looks mean. Who is he? So, after a couple minutes, I went up to him and was like, hey, I'm Cody. I'm, friends with Kent. He's like, is he mute? I don't know what's going on here. So, a couple minutes go by, and I was like, hey, so, how do you know Ken? He's just like... So I finally pulled Ken aside. I said, Ken, is he mute? He's like, no, he just lost his voice. I'm like, oh, okay. So, a while later, we were hanging out. And by the way, the reason Jeff drove is if Kent was driving, you would never get to where you were going. So we're at Kent's wedding, and it was a three-way tie between who's going to be Kent's best man, me, Jeff, and the other Cody Fita. And we could not come to an agreement on who was going to give the toast. So finally we decided that it was going to be a trifecta toast, and it was great because we were able to get Jeff's and Kent's formative years, the college and after, and Jeff was a great guy. But then, after the wedding, we became, a little bit better friends. And I remember I called him up. I'm like, hey, Jeff, what's going on? He's like, man, I'm dating this girl, and it's weird. It's like, well, that's normally not good, buddy. And I was like, well, what's weird? He's like, well, she's Pentecostal. It's like, okay, that could be different, but what's weird about that? He's like, well, I went to church with her, and I don't speak Spanish, but I know that the preacher was yelling at me. It's like, well, that qualifies as weird. I don't know what to tell you there. Maybe get an interpreter. So then he did find out that apparently the, Kent, what was it?
He was using the word Diablo. Right?
Yeah, he was using the word Diablo and pointing at Jeff.
Diablo is among us.
Jeff was just such a great, sweet guy, and the more he opened up, the funnier he got. His one-liners could make the room either silent or crack out laughing. You never knew what was going to happen. That's what I got.
So Jeff and I have been friends for many years. Like many, a lot of our memories include eating at Denny's, eating pizza, a lot of pizza, and getting lost in conversation until the sun came up, listening to Boards of Canada. One of my favorite memories of Jeff, like a lot of people know, is he really loved to practical joke. And he had played a few jokes on me, and he always said that there was no way I was ever going to get him back. So me and one of his other friends, we had devised a plan to play a joke on him. So we got to his house at about 3 in the morning, and we covered his car. He had a Toyota at the time, covered it in about 30 rolls of saran wrap. And there was probably 2 to 3 inches thick of saran wrap on his car. We got to wake up to it in the morning. And he wasn't even mad. Like, he actually laughed about it. He told me, good job. He was proud of me. We finally got him back. And that just really speaks to the type of person that he was. He was one of a kind, and I'm really going to miss him.
I passed it, but it's kind of stuck.
It's kind of stuck. Well, hello everyone. I'm
Jessica Kyle. I went to school with Jeff, and interestingly enough, I probably met him through Jeff Dent as well, Kent. So, I just wanted to talk about, somebody touched on how Jeff would always make you feel special. Like you were his favorite friend. And that's the kind of guy he was. Full of integrity and a bit of an old soul. So when I found out that he had passed, I went down into my basement, and I have kind of a treasure box of old memories, I guess you could say, pictures from high school, things like that. And I was looking to see if I had any pictures of Jeff. And I didn't, but I did find my old high school yearbooks. And so I took a minute and I was reading through those, and I found what Jeff had written for me. And it really touched on the kind of person he was. So amidst all the, hey, have a great summer, wow, you're tall, all that kind of thing, this is what Jeff wrote instead. He said, Jessica, I have heard a lot about your family problems. I think that you are very brave and smart. Most people would have left home or done something worse. Keep strong and know that we're here for you if you ever need us, Jeff. And so school was a rough time for me. I was abused. My mom had cancer. I was sick a lot, had a lot of health problems. And that wasn't something that I talked about with people. That wasn't something people knew, but Jeff Mitchell did. And I always called him Jeff Mitchell. It was never just Jeff. It was always Jeff Mitchell, because I had a lot of friends named Jeff, but he was always Jeff Mitchell. So I thought that was really touching, that that's what he chose to write. But I graduated high school early, and I didn't do it to go to college. I did it so that I could work full time, so that I could save money to get out of my situation. And I didn't hang out with a lot of friends because my family life was hard. So it was easier to just have friends in school. So when I graduated, I lost touch with most everyone. But Jeff Mitchell knew where I worked. And so he would come and visit me. I worked at a pizza place at the Jordan Commons. So he would come during the day. I kind of think he might have been skipping school. Not sure, maybe he was coming during lunch. But he'd come and talk to me. And he'd always come and talk about girls. So he would come and ask my advice about girls every week. It was, something about girls and whatever girl he liked at the time. Or I'm sure many of you know the girl trouble he got into because of practical jokes. He'd come and talk to me about that. But one particular time I remember he was telling me, I don't know how to talk to girls. I'm like, well, Jeff, you're talking to me. And he goes, well, you don't count. And that's kind of how it was for me. I was always one of the guys. But Jeff would come visit me, and probably once a week he'd come and show up at the pizza place, and we'd chat. And when I left that job, I lost touch with him. And it wasn't until probably 13 years later, I was sitting in a diner in Lava Hot Springs. And I was sitting there, eating breakfast with my husband. And I heard this voice and this laugh. And I looked up. I didn't even look around the room. I stood up and I yelled out, Jeff Mitchell! Across the whole diner. And everybody turns around, and this one guy way up at the front turned around, and he saw me, and his face lit up in that big, goofy smile that he had, those dimples. And that was the last time I saw him. We chatted for a while. I think he had to run. I don't know if he was heading for work, but he told me Lava was one of his favorite places, and And it was nice to see him again. I wish I hadn't lost touch with him, but that's what happens sometimes. So he's somebody that, even though we didn't talk a lot, I knew he was always out there. So he was the kind of person that if you needed something, you knew he was there. You could call on him if you really needed it. So I'll miss that. I'm going to miss you, Jeff Mitchell. I'm actually going to Ashley National Forest tomorrow for a camping trip out to Cliff Lake and Lake Watkins, so I'll be thinking of you.
So my name is Juan Barrientos. I work with the Forest Service over in the Ashley National Forest in the Duchesne Ranger District. I had the pleasure of working with Jeff. I was a supervisor there for the last couple of seasons he was there. First met Jeff there in May of 2016, and Jeff was great to welcome me there, even though I was new to the area. He basically opened his mind, his heart to let me know what was going on. Actually, I learned quite a bit from Jeff. Most of the time, you think that all your employees are going to be the ones that are learning. Jeff was great in teaching a lot of folks there. He just had that love of sharing his knowledge, and not in an arrogant way or anything like that. He just wanted to make sure everybody knew, and to go out and be safe. He spent a lot of his time working with the crew and helping me out with the crew and stuff. Towards the end there, we were, the last few years there, he was known as the go-to person. If there was any questions about the wilderness or anything like that around the district, or having to address any questions from the general public, Jeff was the person we would go talk to. He could actually tell you where certain issues were on or anything like that with trails up in the high Uinta wilderness. So I'm really going to miss that. I really miss Jeff. I missed spending the late evenings at work. We spent many nights, many evenings just discussing all the different things that were going on. He was very, very cordial to the general public and talking to them and trying to work with those guys, even through some difficult times. He ran into several difficult people out there, and he was a great employee, and he was a great friend. And on behalf of the friends and everybody from the Duchesne Ranger District, Jeff, we really are going to miss you.
I'm one of those friends from the Ashley National Forest. I worked with Jeff from day one until the last day I saw him. He'd come to our house, I can't tell you how many times, to watch BYU in Utah. And he'd sit there and all of a sudden he'd get excited and whip his hat up and, oh, Jeff, it's okay. He'd jump up and scream and yell, oh, I'm sorry. No, Jeff, we're the same way. Come to my house for Thanksgiving one time too. That was really special. He was like one of my sons. I have 3. He was like one of my sons. A funny story. I hope I'm telling it. Doesn't matter if I tell it right, I guess, but him and a coworker were up taking care of some business on a locked gate or something like that, trying to keep people out or something like that, and he thought that there was somebody behind him shooting at him. And he says, yeah, and he was so serious. He said, they were shooting at me, and I thought, if I just keep moving, then they can't shoot the target. And I'm going, Jeff, you're huge, you're a big guy. It's like, you're the target. And he yelled out, we have families! So they were shooting. I don't think he was getting shot at, but he felt like it. And he was so serious, he'd come back so upset. He was just like, no, I think they really were. And I kept telling him, we have families, we have kids. I'm going to miss Jeff a lot. He's part of my heart's gone. Just like one of my boys. My son right there, Nathan's worked with Jeff for over 10 years or more. And he was like our family. I'm going to miss him.
Hi, I'm one of Jeff's co-workers. I'll keep it short because I'm a lousy speaker. But I know he always spoke fondly of his trip with Dad up there. First trips. It's generous, big heart.
Dave's gonna.
I just want to tell one story of Jeff. He used to be my neighbor when we were in junior high together. When we were in high school, my parents went out of town, and it was my responsibility to make sure everything was good. And the hot tub was working, and I was keeping the hot tub balanced chemically, and was trying to get a chance to go in it. Every day I'd get home from work, and the hot tub chemicals were really, really out of whack, and kept having to add more chemicals. I couldn't figure out why, and then finally figured it out. Jeff was coming over every day and sitting in the hot tub for 2 or 3 hours at a time. So I have lots of memories of Jeff. We were roommates for a short period of time, and yeah, we grew up next to each other, but that was just one thing I thought was just a funny story to tell about Jeff. So.
Hi, I'm John. I was friends with Jeff through all of high school and college. I think we did just about everything together during that time. We were pretty inseparable. This photo right here of him with the slick hair, Kent had alluded to. I'll share that story with you. One of the biggest life lessons I would say I learned from Jeff. He would always tell me, just look like you know what you're doing, and no one will ever question you. So, I mean, during high school, there was this poster that he wanted in the library. It said, "Big Brother is watching you," and he really wanted this huge poster. And so he showed up and he's like, "Yeah, I'm with the drama department. They printed this wrong. I need to take it." And the librarian's like, "Oh, can I help you take this down?" So I think he was hanging up in my house for a little while, and I heard he still had it. So when we were going to Salt Lake Community College at the Redwood campus, he got a ticket for his parking pass was peeling off the back window of his car, and he was pretty upset about that because the parking pass was on there. It was just peeling off, and that's why he got the ticket. So we wrote this letter to the dean, and it was something like, "Dear Dean, I disagree with your parking policy. Please change it. Love, Kirkpatrick." And left it under the door of like Dean of Admissions or someone like that. It's totally the wrong person to take care of an issue like that. But yeah, same thing. We saw these big wood cutouts of a cartoon bear that they would post announcements and whatever on throughout the campus, and he decided he wanted one of those. So similar thing, he went and just grabbed it and said, "I'm with the student body government, we need this back." "Oh, can I help you get that in your car?" So we loaded it up in his little red RAV4 and took it probably out to the West Desert. I think he shot it or something. I think he had a couple of them. He might have had one in his bedroom too, that sounds right. But he just really liked, like it's been said, he liked practical jokes, and he liked messing with people, and he just always didn't take anything too seriously, and I love that about Jeff. And I learned a lot from him. I'm gonna miss him, and all the time I'm thinking about something that I wish I could just call him and tell him about. Found this dumpy Chinese restaurant that's really good, Jeff. You'd love it. Things like that. And anyway, I don't know a lot of you, but I know that if Jeff liked you guys, and you were good people, and he'll be missed. Thanks.
over. So I was a fellow ranger with Jeff in the wilderness. We worked together for about 6 seasons, and one memory that was standing out to me when I was thinking about Jeff was it was one of the earlier seasons, and so we were both kind of working in the same area of this drainage, and so the plan was I was going to work by Lake Atwood, and then he was going to do the first half of his week from another direction, and then we were going to meet and then finish some other work together. So while I was at Lake Atwood, the biggest hailstorm that I've ever experienced came through. Sure, anyone who's spent time in the winters has stories like this about hailstorms, but I remember hanging out under a tree for like 2 hours just waiting for this hailstorm to stop. And so it finally did, and I was supposed to meet Jeff, and I knew that he was coming over Trail Rider Pass, and so I was kind of worried about him being exposed in that situation. But so I was hiking down the trail, and there was like a foot of hail just covering the trail, but I saw these big footsteps, and I thought, okay, maybe that's him, maybe I can find him. So I kept looking, and I kept shouting his name, Jeff, and you know, not seeing him, and then finally I got near the end of the dam, and there he was standing on the dam, and we were just so glad that we seen each other because you know, like we kind of been through it, we were like drenched, and as a result of all this hail coming through, the rivers had surged, and they were a lot swifter and deeper than they were, and harder to cross. And there was this big river that I had to cross to get back to where my camp was, and it's one of those that it's just really deep everywhere, and there's just not really any rocks. And so the best place to cross is like kind of in the center where it's like wider, but it's not as deep. And so like by myself, I don't think I could have crossed that. But I was with Jeff, and I thought, well, he's not going anywhere. So we held hands, and then we just walked right through the river together, and we got to the other side. And so I was just like grateful to have him around as a friend, and someone that was physically really strong and really capable in the Forest Service, and he could always, like, he had endless energy for cutting out trees and doing the work that needed to be done out there. And I have similar experiences with him too, with like talking late into the night at camp. He gave me lots of relationship advice, and he was always so interested, you know, in my relationships and like trying to help me figure it out. And I remember one bit of advice he gave me was, Trish, it's all about double D. I'm like, double D? What does that mean? He's like, dumb and ditzy. You gotta be dumb and ditzy. Like, okay. So, I don't know, like, I mean, I've considered that in the past. I don't know how much I put it into effect, but I've always remembered those little anecdotes and things that he would tell me. And it's so weird that he's gone. It's really hard to really believe that is true. But, yeah, my heart goes out to all of you guys who are closest to him.
I'm Aunt Jerry, and I want to thank all of you for coming here to support my nephew. I want to tell Carla and Mike, you're amazing parents. You raised an amazing son that accomplished many things. And his precious sister Amanda. Jeff grew up in a wonderful, wonderful family, and I'm so lucky to be able to be his aunt. He didn't like to give me hugs, and the last time I saw him was at my dad's 85th birthday, and he towered over me, but I still got a hug from my gentle giant Jeff. And Jeff, when I get up in heaven, I still want those special hugs from you. He was a wonderful person, a great cousin to my children, and just want to thank his parents for the wonderful job that they did in raising him, and I love you.
I'm Jeff's aunt, Vicki, and
When I first think of Jeff, I think of him in the corner of the couch with his arm up on the back, and the other one on the armrest, with a smile on his face and his legs extended. I don't think I ever saw Jeff when he wasn't smiling. He was very easygoing and a lot of fun to be around. When I think of Jeff, I always go back almost 33 years ago. He was about 6 to 9 months old, and we were watching him at my parents' house. And I took him in on our bed and I laid him on my chest, and I would rock from side to side. And with each turn, he laughed harder and harder. And I don't know why that has always stuck in my mind, but when I think of Jeff, that's what I think of. That special moment with just the two of us when we were laughing and having a great time. When my dad called and told me that Jeff had died, there was a silence on the phone, and I didn't want to believe that it was Jeff. He said, yeah, Jeff died, and I went, it was just silence. And I was thinking, he's so strong. He hikes, he's healthy. Whatever happened? And when my dad said, yeah, Jeff Mitchell, Carlos Jeff, I just was in total shock. But I always have a lot of fun memories of Jeff, especially with my dad and his BYU-Utah rivalry. That was always the highlight of our gatherings. And I just want to tell Jeff that I love him, and he will be missed in our family. And say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through this, but you all know Jeff in a different way than I did. He had a way of making fun of everybody and everything, because being offended was one of his biggest annoyances. Why get offended when you could just laugh it off, or just not care, or just not listen? Some of my favorite moments with Jeff, my first memory was one time, my brother, I believe I couldn't have been older than 3, when Jeff decided that he was gonna make a swimming pool out next to the house, and of course he didn't know what it entailed to make a swimming pool. So he dug up Mom's garden, all of Mom's garden, and he flooded. I don't know if he flooded the basement or how it, anyway, the last thing that he had to say about it was, Amanda made me do it. I remember very distinctively looking up at him, and for the first time in my life went, you bastard. You got me.
Yeah, we knew you didn't make it.
No, obviously, I could hardly even articulate anything. But some other good memories are going up to the sand dunes with my dad, and getting to roll down the hill, running and rolling, and just playing and being wild. And